All right, and welcome back for the episode of Carnivore Trades. Today is Monday, November 6, 2023. If you're not done so already, please give the video a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com for swing trading alerts and analysis. Anyways, let's get into it today. So, markets here are totally asleep again. And yeah, we are in a very, very, very tight range here. So, basically from the low to Friday to Friday's high, it was pretty much just an inside day, and I think this is about a 40 or 50 basis point range. That's it. So markets are fully asleep, and very, very, very tough to get anything done here. We did have a day trade this morning in the trading room, which, by the way, there's still the introductory rate on that. So $39.99 for your first month until the 19th. If you'd like to try it out, it's $100 a month after that. But we did have a winner in there. It took me about 4 hours to get a scalp in off of Microsoft. In a normal market, this would have played out in about 15 minutes. But in any case, you get the idea here. Markets are definitely asleep. Now, usually I have a lot for you. I don't have a lot for you today because there's not really a whole lot going on. But I will say everybody knows the market's a little extended short term. I've talked about the 440 handle. I do think we get there. Do we get there tomorrow? I don't think so. We're going to have to consolidate a little bit. There is some resistance here. That's why we're stalling out in this zone. Overall, just an inside day. One thing I will say that we should keep an eye on, and there's not a lot of economic data this week either. And by the way, the bond market's closed on Friday, so it just adds to the slow news cycle here. But one thing I will say to watch is the yield curve here. Some pretty good, big name investors came out recently, Stan Druckenmiller being one. And he went bullish on the 2-year. So we're looking at the yield curve right now, but the 2-year, this is the yield, obviously. So he's inverse this. That came pretty hard on Friday. We're getting a bounce here today. We do have some bond auctions going on this week. My guess is, though, this really starts to uninvert, which it has been doing. Could be telling us something. So maybe there's a recession around the corner. Certainly the data seems to point to that. I think I don't know if you guys saw the Wall Street for Main Street video last night, but we talked about this. Arrows here show where the curve uninverted or 100 basis point steepening of an inverted 3-month 10-year spread. And you see the gray areas are recession. And here's our arrow. There's recession, recession, recession. So we're getting kind of close here. Some smart money's betting on a hard landing, it seems. So something to keep an eye on. Honestly, that's really the best I got for you as far as extra narrative stuff today. We're in a range, and when the market's like this, it's telling you that you don't want to be a gunslinger. Only take the best setups, and definitely don't overtrade. So until we get some type of a move, what would that be? We got to break 433 on the downside. Then that opens you up for some volatility down to that 430 handle. There's a gap fill there. Intraday, we've got, some support around 428. And then obviously, of course, the 200 moving average and the gap here as well. But really, the big level to me is, right around 439, 440 on the spiders. I think that is, a level that will be pretty stiff and pretty tough to get through. But right now, I still think the market kind of grinds up here into that area, and then we'll kind of see what kind of reaction we get from there. If we start to pull back before then obviously those levels I just presented would be areas of interest. I do think the Qs are a little stretched here. So Q's up 30 basis points today. Market's closing in about 2 minutes, by the way. But went right into that level, and you can see here, that marked the high. We went up, lower high, hit it again, another lower high. And look, we're trying to, pump up a little bit here into the close. So that may be some resistance. We might need to pull back there. So maybe we see a little bit of strength from, say, banks. So banks were actually red today. XLE was red quite a bit. So wouldn't surprise me to see that role reversed, right? A lot of stocks here today. Meta, very strong. Google, strong. Microsoft, strong. Apple, strong. So big tech, very strong. Nice little breakout there for Apple. Wouldn't surprise me here if my theory is correct, and if we're going to float up into this area, if we see strength tomorrow and so on and so forth from XLE, XLF, maybe XLV. XLV is green today. XLU, XLP is fractionally higher. So maybe big tech slows down a little bit. We see some of those other sectors. By the way, speaking of other sectors, Russell 2000 right back down today. So right into that trend line. We talked about that on Friday. We went up, we pulled back in nicely, closed basically right on it. And the Russell outside moved down. So down 1.25, just cannot sustain anything. So I know we had this impressive rally here the last couple of days into the end of the week. But, outside moved down today, and there's nothing saying that this ain't another lower high. Just, you're not even above the 50 moving average. So just be aware of that on the IWM. Respect the move here. This can still consolidate and push in another leg up. But for right now, it has absolutely done nothing outside of having a big squeeze. That's really all it is. This could still be a lower high. But again, if we are to trade up into that level, the 440 handle on the spiders, perhaps the Russell and these other sectors I mentioned kind of take leadership over the next couple of days in layout of big tech. Dow here, fractionally higher. Let's not make a ton out of it. This can still get to 343, maybe 345. SMH here up 0.25%. The upside target there. Very obvious. That has not changed. IGV, you got two of them. One is not that far away. It's about 353. And then, of course, right above that, right around 359, 360. So again, I may need to do some flagging to get there, but IGV is a strong sector, and it's been a strong sector all year. Another sector that could reverse rolls, actually had a decent bid off the lows, but this was down quite a bit earlier, was the transports. You're working on an outside move down. We're back inside of Friday's candle, and you're holding the 20 moving average. It's a little bit of weakness here, but it's nothing terrible. Market's about to close right here. The market's got a little bit of a pop into the bell. But there's nothing to say this can't just flag here and push up into that 200 moving average. I think that happens. That's probably where it wants to go. But for right now, Dow Transport's down just fractionally on the day. If you take this low out, that's when it gets a little bit concerning, because now you're back below the 20 moving average. You don't want to close back below that. You have to go retest, the gap, possibly, this trend line here. So that would be a sign of weakness there. But again, transport's nothing to say it can't flag up and hold on to this area. We talked about rates a little bit as always. Well, you see the 2-year there broke that trend line on Friday. That's been an uptrend since July. And it did get a nice bounce here today, but we'll have to see how it reacts. It's probably going to backtest this level. If it can't get back through 5%, it's going to be interesting, because then your next level is going down to, that 460 handle. And then below that, 430. I don't have rates at all going a ton lower, as you guys know, but, if we have a hard landing, we could have a pretty big, we could have a surge in bonds. We'll say it, leave it like that. 5-year, again, knifing through this level on Friday, getting a bounce. It's right at the 50 moving average right now. You could even say that, this is the trend line. I actually let's do this. I like this better, because it's got more pivots through it. So let's do that. And we'll say 4.75, right? That's going to be our little test there on the 5-year. So we'll watch that over the next couple of days. 10-year, watch 4.8. That was your breakdown right there. So we'll watch for a retrace there. And then the 30, this could get back up to 4.92, 4.93, but I also think the long end has more of kind of a flag pattern in it. And I'm going to take a look here. I'm going to flip back over to the ZB. This is what I like to follow for the 30-year. That looks good. Yeah, I like that not outside move, but higher high. And what I like is that it's not rejecting hard off the 50 MA, or it's inside day. Nothing terrible. This can flag and go higher. So I think that long end looks okay right now. Short end may have to do some backing and filling. They all have to do some backing and filling, but I think bonds are okay for a good move up here, at least some type of an interim low, as you guys are aware. XHB, here's another sector that might do some, catching up, at least for, the next couple of days. It had a nice catch up last week, obviously, as most things did, but if tech comes down is what I'm saying, via this trend line on the Qs, other sectors would have to hold up. Right, so XHB down 1.3, outside move down. We closed below Friday's low. So housing showing a little bit of weakness now. It's a double-edged sword, right? Yes, bond yields coming in helps out the XHB, but again, if they're coming down for the wrong reasons, it could be a negative for housing. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's not always a perfect correlation, but closing back below the 50. So be aware of that. We knew that 78 was going to be resistance. I told you that. It's not the end of the world. Again, this can still shape up and firm up. But this is a resistance for right now, and I don't really see it getting much through that, at least without doing some consolidation first or a pullback. VNQ, outside move down. You guys know my thoughts on that one, down 1.44, back below the 50 moving average. And so far, this trend line has held on a back test. That's going to be really bearish, especially if we close the week back below this pivot. So VNQ still struggling there, and REITs not in the best shape. XLF, again, little outside move, but closed back inside of Friday's candle. So a lot of things with this same kind of look here. A lot of non-tech stocks with that same kind of look. If this consolidates, you can push up into 34.50. So we'll give it that for now. I'm going to get rid of that. We'll say 34.50 is your big level there for the XLF if we consolidate and push through. If not, we'll look around 32.50 on a pullback there. KRE was on the weaker side today. Again, outside move down. We'll have to see how this behaves at 42. If it can hold that, then it can hold up and go attack that 200 MA. If not, then you're going back to 40, and you got to hold that. Same thing with the KBE, basically kissing the 200 on Friday. We'll look at the gap there, and then we'll look at about 36 on the downside. That level has to hold. XBD inside day, no problems there. This can consolidate. If you get through 490, you can go to 500. Crude here up 33 cents on the futures. The COMEX was negative. That's why it's showing red. You could be setting up a minor inside. I wouldn't really call it inside bar. It's not a wide range bar here, this one. Well, you do have down move and then sideways, right? So that could be a minor little bear flag. We break it up to break it into like a 4-hour candle or a 4-hour time frame. You can see, right there, right? So if we stay in that range, you could be setting up a minor little bear flag. If we do that, we set up enough of a base. Depends on how big the base is, but I would say we could get through that 200 if we consolidate enough. But I do think at some point we're going to go test that, probably in the not too distant future, and then we'll kind of make a decision from there. But right now it looks like crude's setting up for a test of 78. But nothing terrible there for right now. It's still in a range, and we'll leave it alone. We'll leave XLE alone too. I'm not doing anything with this. I do not like the pattern. XOP, big outside move down 2.62. That could be lower highs too. You don't want to take out this pivot there. The OIH, lower highs as well. Be careful. Got to hold that pivot there. If you can put in a higher low, that's good, but I don't like those 3 lower highs there on the OIH. CCJ, we talked about this Friday. Didn't close above that pivot high, that tail candle. So it doesn't look like it, it wasn't by much, but there are no accidents with these closes. And CCJ coming in. So again, it's not like it's the end of the world. This is still doing weekly consolidation. So no real problems. If it does bust out, next level is 45. But right now, CCJ coming in a little bit here, as is the URNM. So a little bit of weakness there, a little bit more weakness in the URNM, down 4.25. Kind of want to hold that 50 moving average here to kind of save this bullish structure on the daily. On the weekly, it's fine. I just need to let that moving average catch up. And put in a base here. That's really all you want. This can just base into the end of the year. This is fine. So no problems there on the URNM. But it did back off a little bit today. Nat gas backing off as well. So basically hitting that 20 moving average. I think we filled that gap. Got very close. Weekly pattern is still setting up a base here before I move into that $4 handle. Dollar index. So that was a little bit on the weaker side, although it did get a minor little bid here. By the end of the day, it came off the lows by the end of the day. So dollar holding up. Again, market's not really looking at the dollar right now. It's looking a lot more at the yield. And even though the yield was up today, yields across the board were higher, the market was, again, the market's asleep. So, when you see these, like the spiders have been inversely correlated to the 30 and 10 year, like tick for tick, literally, on an intraday basis. And today, yields got a pretty good pop, and the markets weren't really scared. That's the market's way of telling you that there's no volatility. So you don't want to overtrade in this environment. That's basically what I'm saying here. But in any case, dollar here getting a micro little bit. It wasn't too strong. I don't like that you close below that low on a weekly. It's not good. Your positive is the trend is up. and it's still up on a monthly. So, and even if you get below that 20-month moving average, it doesn't mean it's necessarily down. It would just be a minor negative there. But dollar index trying to get a bounce. If you somehow reclaim this red bar, you get reclaim 105, or excuse me, what's the high? 106.22. And then we get a little interesting there on the DXY, but still in a range. Short term, look at 104.50. It got close to there. And then 104, I think, is a little bit of a bigger level there for the DXY. Gold and silver not doing a whole lot. Gold did back off a little bit today. Again, just back below 2,000. We'll look at this trend line here if it continues lower, and then 1,900 is your bigger level. Nothing has really changed there. It's still holding up really well. Silver here, down of 0.2%. Nothing terrible there either. I like the weekly pattern. I'd like it to do a little bit more, and that can go higher as well. Platinum backing off nicely. I'm rooting for this one to continue backing off, but big outside move down there, down 3 1/3. Especially if you close below that power bar at 907. I think this goes lower, and I would really like that to happen. Palladium needs to drop one more time too, and copper holding up okay, nice higher high. I mean, we'll give it the upside bias to 374 in the short term. It's trying to get back above this wedge, but you got a lot of resistance up here with this red bar, 200-week and 20-week moving average. So just be aware of that for right now. Bitcoin here, continuing to hold up and hang on to that 35K handle. I don't really see any problems here. A lot of these alts are starting to run too. ETH acting well. It's a lot of supply up here. Just be aware of that. Doge, a lot of supply right there. But it had a nice pop today, up 5.6. Polkadot back above the 200. A lot of supply. Same thing with Litecoin. Nice outside move that probably wants 80. XRP doing XRP things. Probably we'll just say 75, 80 here in the near term. Solana had that big pop last week. That's consolidating. Cardano, big move into that double top. There's supply there. But yeah, crypto, some of these alts running pretty nicely here. Interesting because they weren't really running. I talked about that kind of surge here with Bitcoin, kind of preceding these like panic moves, especially in the banks. And the alts weren't exactly running, but they're running right now. Maybe there's some more liquidity coming in the system, could be a thing. But we'll see what kind of pattern we get with Bitcoin. It's holding up well. I would just prefer some type of a retrace first, but can't see anything wrong with it right now. And I like what it did on the weekly, obviously. There we go, getting above this red bar on that weekly close, and the monthly as well. Nice outside move, continued from that bull pattern. So again, you can see the supply right here though. So that's kind of why I'm saying I prefer more consolidation or a pullback. Anyways, back over to the spiders here. Again, we finished up $1. This is nothing here. We stayed inside of Friday's range. Let's not make a ton out of it. Short term, again, we'll give the market the upside bias into this moving average. Essentially, you might have to consolidate for another day, so we might have another snooze fest tomorrow. But markets are holding up here. Again, we break 433 and you close below that, then you got to go to 430, and we'll talk about these other levels, moving averages and gaps and so on and so forth. But markets seem to be hanging in there just fine right now, and it's especially helped out by the fact that there's not a lot of economic data this week. Anyways, guys, gonna wrap up here. You guys take care. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com. I will talk to you guys all tomorrow.